Hey everyone, and Oliver, my son. I just wanted to hop on here and make another video to document what kind of happened in the last trimester of my pregnancy and my labor and delivery story, because it was so amazing and I cannot wait to have another baby. So it's just something I want to remember, so I'm recording it now. One day Oliver will hear this story. So I think what you guys know is that I had COVID at 22 weeks pregnant, and it was awful because I couldn't take any medicine, but hey, we survived. And then at 28 weeks pregnant, I had to go do my second glucose test, well, third technically. So I did the 1 hour test in the first trimester and I failed by 2 points. Then I had to do the 3 hour test in the first trimester and I passed, but I was just so nauseous and it was really, really hard for me to get through it. Well, I had to do it again at 28 weeks pregnant and I knew I had to fast. I was just like so bummed that I had to do this because I knew it was going to be hard and I was going to be nauseous, because that glucose test is so hard on a pregnant woman. But it was COVID, so I had to do it by myself. I couldn't have anyone with me, and I told my mom to be working that day right down the hall at the hospital. But basically what ended up happening was halfway through the glucose test, I blacked out, fell off of the table in the doctor's office room, and when I woke up, I was puking everywhere. So I didn't know how I got on the floor, and it was just a very scary, traumatic situation, because when I woke up, there was like 5 different nurses all around me, and everybody's freaking out because I fell like flat on my belly, and they were gonna like put me in a neck brace and put me on this board and take me to the ER and everything, or labor and delivery, to monitor the baby and everything. It was a very scary situation, but the baby ended up being just fine, and I had to spend the day in the ER for that, which ended up costing, the bill was like $22,000. That's insane. But anyways, fast forward, I was at my 30, so they normally do your first cervical check. By the way, this video is totally TMI. I want to put out that warning now. If you are young or a guy or you get super grossed out, don't watch this video, because I want to just get it all out there. So if you're pregnant, they normally do the first cervical check at 36 weeks. Well, my appointments were a little bit off, so I was maybe like 35 and a half weeks. She did the first cervical check and I was 1 centimeter dilated and 50% effaced already. So I was like, oh great, cool. And so I just, ever since that check, I started like pumping for 5 minutes a day because I wanted to go into labor so bad. I started walking almost every day. We would go to like the mall and walk around. We would go outside and try the curb walking and everything. Basically in between, because that's when I started having to do the weekly appointments, because I was basically, or almost full term. In between that appointment and the next following week, I was in so much pain. Like, I could have been in labor and just not have known it, but I feel like it was just round ligament pain. I'm not sure. I just had so much pain. It was very tough. And so the next appointment I was supposed to have was at 37 weeks, and it was 37 weeks and 3 days. I woke up that day for my appointment. I was ready. I woke up at like 5:30 in the morning, had breakfast, went back upstairs to lay down, and when I laid down, I noticed that there was like a pop in my lady parts. I felt a pop, and so I was like, that's weird. And so I stood up from bed and it just gushed all over the side of the bed onto the carpet. my water broke. And I was like, Kevin, I think my water broke. I think it broke. And he was getting ready for work. He was about to get in the shower for his day at work. And I was like, oh, perfect timing, you know. You won't have to go to work today because my water broke. But when it broke, I was not having a lot of pain. I was not having a lot of contractions. I barely felt anything. I just, you know, had the usual discomfort, but like my water broke. And I called my mom because she was my doula, so I called her to let her know. She was on her way to work out at the gym, and she turned around right away. She was like, I'm gonna be there, I'll be there right away. I called my Nana and Papa who live in New Orleans, and right when I said, hey, I'm in labor, they started driving up to Nashville. They packed a bag and came up to Nashville right away. I hear Oliver crying in the background. My husband is taking care of him right now so I can make this video. But anyways, about an hour after my water broke, I started having contractions, and I was like, this is uncomfortable, but it's not so bad, you know, like it just kind of felt like really, really intense period cramps. And because I was super big and super pregnant, like when you have period cramps, it's just down like at the bottom. But because you have this big pregnant belly, it kind of went like all around the belly. So about an hour later, I started having contractions, and my goal was to labor at home as long as I could before going to the hospital. And it was really kind of hard because nobody told me that when your water breaks like that, with every contraction, the baby going like up and down, the water's going to just continue to gush out. And it was so gross. I had like towels everywhere in my house. And so I labored at home for about 3 hours. And after 3 hours of contractions, I was like, okay, something's getting really intense. Like, we need to go to the hospital now. And our bags were already loaded and ready. So we got in the car, and we literally live 2 stoplights away from the hospital, like 5 minutes from the hospital. But those 5 minutes were the hardest 5 minutes of my life because I didn't feel like the baby was coming out or anything, but it was just the contractions were so intense. And apparently my mom and my husband said, like, I have a high pain tolerance, like I was doing great, I wasn't screaming or anything, because I was kind of just like internalizing it and really going into myself for that. But boy, was it painful. And when I got to the hospital, my mom works there, and she's very popular, and I'm very popular. Everybody knows me there. So she had like this entourage of her coworkers come out to the front to greet me with a wheelchair, with everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. And I was trying not to scream as I was having the contraction from the car to the wheelchair, because I didn't want to scream, but it hurt really bad. And so I got into the labor and delivery floor. They finally, you know, checked me in. And when the nurse came to check me in, the nurse that was going to be my labor nurse, she said, hi, my name's Meryl. And I was like, Meryl, that's such a familiar name. And I watched the show on Facebook Watch. It's called 9 Months with Courtney Cox. And I loved that show during my pregnancy. I watched everybody's videos. And Meryl was actually on that show. She was a surrogate mother for her friend, and she became a nurse and moved to Nashville and everything. But I never imagined that I would run into her like, oh my gosh, she's my nurse for labor and delivery. That's amazing. So she was great. She was very friendly, very personable. She helped me through my epidural and everything. So when I got to the hospital, they checked me, and the cervical exam was a lot worse than the first time at the doctor's office because I was having contractions. So when she checked me, I was just like, ah. But she said, right when I got to the hospital, she said, you're a 4 to 5 centimeters. And I was like, you're kidding. I'm already halfway done. Like, this is amazing. But it was so painful. I was like, get me this epidural right now. Like, I don't want to wait anymore. Just get me the epidural. And I had to wait in triage for longer than normal because they were out of rooms. They were completely busy. They were out of rooms. So I had to wait, and when I finally got into my room and the anesthesiologist was like right there, ready to go, the epidural, like I was so scared. In my head, I was trying to be strong because I had these contractions going, and I was like, I need to be a big girl, I need to be an adult, but I was about to have like a 14-inch needle stuck into my back, and I was so scared because I don't do well with needles, and they messed up my IV when they were trying to start the IV, which really is not that bad. None of the needles hurt compared to the contractions. But when I was having the epidural, getting it done, the only thing I felt was the numbing shot that they did before the actual epidural. So it just felt like a pinch. And the hardest part was staying still for the epidural because they wanted you to be like hunched over like this. And you have this huge belly that you're trying to like hunch over, and you can't breathe, and you're having contractions. So you're like, oh my gosh. It was really intense. And the nurse was like up in my face, in my ear. She was talking in my ear. She was like, just breathe. And I remember the most memorable thing from the entire labor and delivery was the song that was playing over the speaker when I was getting my epidural, because I had a labor playlist. I had the Bluetooth speaker. Like, that was something that was really important to me. I had a bunch of worship songs on there. I don't remember the song that was playing when he was born, but I remember the song that was playing when I got my epidural, and that was Tremble by Mosaic. And so I started singing along with it when I was getting the epidural, because that's the only thing that was keeping me from like writhing in pain. I was like, I gotta stay still, I gotta stay still. But once I got the epidural, it wasn't that bad. When it kicked in, it was so weird not being able to feel anything from the waist down. Like, you could see your legs and you could touch your legs, and you know in your mind that you're touching your leg, but you can't feel it, and it's just the weirdest thing. And then they were gonna put the catheter in because I had an epidural, which I was nervous about that too, because I was like, oh, I don't wanna feel it. I don't wanna feel anything, which I didn't. They put the catheter in, and I didn't even know she was doing it at that point. And when you get to labor and delivery at the hospital, like, you don't care what it looks like down there, who is touching you down there, like, you just want to get it out and get it over with. Because I thought I was going to be very nervous and very concerned about who looks and who touches and whatever. But I did, ladies and gentlemen, I made my husband shave me prior to going to labor because I knew that I was getting close. So I made him shave me, and he did, and it was great. So basically, I started, my water broke at 6:30 in the morning, and Oliver was born at 4:30 in the afternoon. So I was only in labor for like 10 hours, and this was my first baby, and I was like almost a little bit disappointed because I didn't get to use the epidural long enough. I was like just trying to rest and relax my body, you know, and then they come in and they're like, oh yeah, you're 10 centimeters, it's time to push. I'm like, what? No, I'm not ready for this. But pushing was kind of weird. I did everything I did not want to do because technically I was laying on my back and I was pushing, but I did tug of war to push, which was really weird. I don't know why, that just worked for me, and when I started doing it, I didn't want to do anything else. So I was doing the tug of war to push, and they had me, so I was pulling the towel, but I was kind of like at an angle on the bed, you know, like sitting up, and my acid reflux was so bad. I was not nauseous, but I had acid reflux, and that was a symptom throughout my whole pregnancy, and it was so hard to push with acid reflux. And so finally I just said, I can't do it. And they got me a bucket and I threw up, and I was like, this is disgusting, because I did not want to throw up. That was the one thing I did not want to do while pushing, was throw up, because I've seen so many women go through it, and I was like, ew, gross, I don't want to throw up. But I did, because you can't control it. And everybody handled it all really great. Just so you know, ladies, I did not request a mirror, but they had this thing on the ceiling that was kind of like a light slash mirror. I could see the reflection very clearly through it. And just so you know, I did poop when I was pushing, and it was disgusting because she just let it sit there on the bed. Like, most of the time you would think when women poop when they're pushing, they like hurry up and wipe it away and you barely even know that you've done it. Well, I looked up and I saw that there was poop on the bed, and here we are, my legs are spread wide open, my husband's on this side, my mom is on this side, and they're both looking, and I'm just like mortified, but I can't show it because I don't want to make a big deal about it, and I wanted to get the baby out as soon as possible. So I pushed for maybe 40 minutes, but not pushing solidly 40 minutes. Like, there was breaks in between the contractions and we were waiting for like the doctor and stuff like that. I really didn't push that long, and it wasn't that bad. I got a 2nd degree tear, and so they had to do a few stitches, which I wasn't concerned about really, but I did look up at the reflection thing again when she was stitching me up, and I could just see all the blood and nasty stuff that was rolling out, and it was disgusting. And she was like, "Do you want to see your placenta?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to see it. I don't want to eat it. I don't want to bury it. I don't want to use it. Just throw it away." And when my baby boy was born, it was a very chaotic moment. Like, I wanted to savor it and I wanted it to be as special, but because of like the adrenaline rush of pushing and everybody saying, "Go, go, go," you know, like when the baby comes out and they just hand it to you and you're just like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, you're coming down from doing the hardest thing in your entire life, and then they take the baby real fast to get him warmed up and everything. Once the cord was cut, which my husband did do, and when they took the baby is when I finally realized, like, I just pushed out a baby. And I just kept saying, "I did it, I did it, I did it." I'm so excited. It was amazing. And right after he was born, I looked at my husband and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it again. Let's do it again." Because the whole pregnancy was really hard, and I kept saying, "I never want to have another baby." But right after the amazing labor and delivery, I was just like, "Yeah, let's have another baby." It was incredible, you guys, and being his mom for the first 3 months is so much fun, and it's taken me this long to finally appreciate being a mother and getting used to my son and what he needs and his cries and his schedule of things every day. It's very hard. It's the hardest job in my entire life because it never stops, but I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to have more children because it is just the best feeling in the world when you look at your baby and he's so cute and you made that. You're like, I pushed out a baby, you guys. That was amazing. I just was so scared and nervous, and I didn't think my body could do it, but I did. And I helped just bring this new life into the world, and it was amazing. So that is my labor and delivery story. I'll have to make another video about breastfeeding journey and how it's just been postpartum and raising him over the last 3 months. I'm gonna make another video for that. Okay, bye guys.